because they are more than happy to play Baptiste in both captain and jungle roles. It's a great flex pick, and as well it plays into that potential Catherine. So it's a super, super flexible first pick from Fnatic.
Yeah, they'll probably pick up Blackfeather here because giving Doom Blackfeather into a Baptiste is pretty good because Blackfeather is strong. Oh, they actually pick up the Scarf immediately, so that gives over the side of Mousesports. They have Gwen, which is good against Baptiste. Idris, not so much because he can get ordained. But they have CP Blackfeather with a Gwen would be a very strong composition interior. They can both dive, they can both poke, and they both have lots of sustain with the Lyra here. So let's see if they decide to go that path. Because Gwen should be showing up more, honestly, given the CC combinations we're seeing so much come out of so many teams here. Gwen should be making it back into the meta. It's like how Grumpjaw falls off, right? Grumpjaw's not even played anymore. It's so interesting how the meta keeps shifting. And it'll shift back and forth based on what's being pulled out here.
Yeah, and Mousesports, they're going to need to find some way to get onto this Scarf. They're going to want some kinds of hard crowd control and lots of mobility. Being able to dive onto the back lines is pretty much a requirement going into a Scarf. Otherwise, we have what we just saw with G2 versus SK, where
they're
they
going to go with the Kestro.
All right, I'm the Doom. Or potentially at full. It could be at full, yeah. But, I wanna believe that it's I'm the Doom. I want to see that Kestrel come out. It could well be at full taking that one. We'll have to see with this final pick of the draft for Mousesports. But definitely, if it goes to I'm the Doom, heavy signature
the Black
pick.
Feather comes out. So I would have liked to see Gwen here. That would have been way better choice. But Kestrel could work as well. But if she gets ordained, she has no way to escape and get out of it like a Gwen can. So with that being said, Fnatic now has an option to pick a weapon power laner like potentially Idris, but one might not be good into a weapon Kestrel. So they need to really think about what they want to pick her because they have to flex this as a Captain Baptiste for sure. So they may go for a Glaive potentially here, like a lane Glaive, so they can reposition the Kestrel, CC her with the Ordain, and then just lock her down with a Goop Burn. So Glaive looks really, really good in this composition.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty of picking into this Mousesports lineup is they have the Kestrel and Blackfeather both can be flexed into either weapon or crystal, lane or jungle. And so you have to kind of pick something that can work well regardless of which of those two options Mousesports goes for, and that severely limits what you're going to be able to do. Because like we just said, Idris you think would be great, but then if they just put the Blackfeather up in the lane with the Crystal Kestrel, it's a lot harder for the Idris to have the same level of effect.
Yeah, and you could end up seeing a similar situation with an Idris as to what we saw last game where the Crawl has to charge and they want to dive.
Idris
is going to be the pick. We'll see if they can keep that coordinated as a team. Idris definitely has to play with his team, can't dive too deep alone.
Yeah, so I think this probably might be a weapon Blackfeather lane and CP Kestrel. This is good because CP Kestrel outranges the entire team, and range counters Blackfeather, Baptiste. And Blackfeather can also poke once he's level 8 with a weapon. It's not as big of a poke, he can still poke though.
Not only that, but the weapon Blackfeather gives you that option to get onto the Scarf and into the back lines to try and take him down.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see how Fnatic are going to be able to combo these ultimates as well, because Scarf Baptiste, it's a decent combo of ultimates. It's not quite the level of Catherine Baptiste, but definitely you can lock them up in the CC with the fear, like keep them going in the same direction as Scarf just melts through the health bars.
Or put them into a wall, too. If you can get the angle right, it can be absolutely devastating.
So the big question coming into this one, how do we feel about Mousesports specifically? Because Fnatic, I feel like we're confident on, right? They've proven themselves recently. Can Mouse take it to Fnatic here?
Yeah, as long as they get reflex block, they don't get caught early with the Ordain. They can get caught and just killed and then lose the lead and get snowballed. But Fnatic has a good comp. Their comp's not bad at all. So they need to play it correctly with the poke and siege.
All right, it's going to be all about the execution, all about the poke and siege. It's time to get on into this game. I know a lot of you at home are excited for this one. Fnatic up against Mousesports. Can Mouse get back onto their previous form after this boot camp? Let us know who you think is going to take it on Twitter using that hashtag Vainglory8. But I can't wait to get on into this one. So let's jump onto the map and pass it to our casters for Fnatic up against Mousesports.
A pretty incredible matchup here. Mouse versus Fnatic. Fnatic 8 points ahead of the competition, currently sitting in first. Mouse looking to try and make up some of that distance. If they're able to take down Fnatic, then perhaps this week we see a new king in Europe. Well, not a new king, but at least someone challenging for it here, AJ. A very interesting pick and draft stage. And even more interesting to see that this Kestrel is in the lane as weapon power, the Black Feather in the jungle as CP, considering that weapon power Black Feather is usually considered a counter to Idris.
Yeah, it was a curious choice, but maybe this is something they've been practicing on the down low that they have a specific plan for. I mean, certainly the Crystal Black Feather can do some work into, for example, the Scarf. It can stay at a relevantly long range away from something like the Batiste as well, and still be threatening. Plus, you do have your Rose Offensive that can keep you in a fight through a lot of the crowd control that could be coming out from the Batiste. But at the same time, I do agree with you. I feel like the lane choice maybe would have been the more typical and perhaps stronger option. We'll see if it manages to work out, though. Apfel as well on this Kestrel, something worth talking about. I think Weapon Kestrel is probably one of the most difficult weapon carriers, honestly, to play. You've got to keep so much in mind about the positioning of your enemies, where you are in the fight, when you need to use your active camo. And in this game, it's going to be especially important because Weapon Idris can initiate on you very quickly and without much warning because of the fact that he blinks so fast after Divergent Paths has come online. So you really do need to have quick fingers when it comes to using your active camo to get away from the divers on the side of Fnatic.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, whilst we're on the subject of hero placement, it's I'm the Doom. And Kestrel, right, is his signature hero. So enough about that. Perhaps we don't return to it unless it is necessary towards the end of the game. Mouse have said that they've been boot camping, recognizing their errors. They definitely stormed EU earlier on in the season, but have fallen short recently of success, being taken down by Calamity, which seemed very simple for Calamity. And they've said they've recognized their errors. Coming against Fnatic, the top team in Europe as it stands, they certainly will have that put to the test as much as possible.
I'd really like to see a lot of jungle aggression out of Mouse this game. Scarf is not someone who fares particularly well against it, although he does have fast clear, so hopefully he doesn't need to put himself in harm's way frequently. You've got to realize that Blackfeather and Lyra are a combination that can just do so much work early. You really want to be utilizing it. And on top of that, in the lane, Kestrel, with good positioning up towards the top of the lane, should be able to active camo and respond to most plays that Fnatic would want to make. So you probably don't need Just Man sitting up here so much, although I don't blame them for being a little scared of Ordain.
Right, breaking out. Sorry, I completely missed that. I was watching the wrong part, and first blood goes over to Palmatoro there for Fnatic. It is the positional missteps from Apfel on this Kestrel. Like you mentioned, definitely the hardest hero to play in the lane as far as positioning is concerned. You misstep even by a pixel on Kestrel, you can be punished.
You can, but that leads me to question why the Kestrel was playing in the center of the lane. You have enough range that there's honestly not much good reason not to play by your lane bush as he currently is. So a bit of a misstep by Apfel, gets heavily punished. That does buy Fnatic a lot of space to maybe mitigate some of that advantage in the jungle that their opponents have. Mousesports are not doing themselves a lot of favors right now, to be honest.
Definitely seems that they are playing this game on hard mode, at least on the surface, it seems. Perhaps there is something that we are missing, AJ. Apfel, though, with that early depth towards Palmatoro, only goes towards Fnatic's win conditions, allowing the Scarf to scale up quicker. Palmatoro just sitting 400 gold, if not less, 300 at this point, towards hitting that Frostburn, getting that first item online. We do see a fountain completed for Justman just now. Net2Let hasn't been to the shop to purchase his. Bit of an advantage here for Mouse. Not only do they have that sustained healing from the Lyra, but a fountain advantage. We do see Net2Let purchasing his, though, which means that advantage has just disappeared.
Yeah, that was a very small window. It's hard to actually utilize that particular one frequently. I do think it's interesting that Fnatic is spending so much time in the lane. If Justman is in the lane, which he's shown himself to be a number of times, and if Apfel is positioning properly, it's pretty difficult for Fnatic to actually have impact there. I think the bigger reason why they're deciding to do it is that they do not want to fight Mouse in the jungle, and maybe that's why Mouse is making the moves that they are with Just Man's positioning. You know, they are somewhat anticipating that this is something that might actually happen. But Mouse need to, I think, find windows to be effective early and in the mid-game. In a mid-game especially. They do not want the Scarf to get out of control.
No, they do not, and they will need to do their best to make sure that as soon as Own the Doom is level 8, they can try and poke and outrange. Lots of burst damage there for Doom with this Shadow Glass online. Has that advantage in the early game with the Kestrel, a bit of range to dance around for the double melee that is Techno and Net2Let. And Pierce from Doom, he is on his way to level 8 as well, and once that's unlocked, Fnatic are going to really struggle to position. One thing that CP Blackfeather does have against Idris is that if the Idris is playing passively, isn't playing proactively, then the poke can really just stack up.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and that's something I think overall we need to be wary of on Fnatic, because you do not have the Lyra on your comp, right? Like, you don't have sustain to deal with that poke. As a result, it can be all the more effective. So if I'm the Doom is able to stay on par for the course in terms of item progression, I do think it forces the hand a little bit of Fnatic, makes them want to go in. It's something they already kind of want to do in the mid to late mid stages of the game, but in the early game, they certainly do not want to necessarily be pulling the trigger. We've seen how doing that too early can backfire in the games between G2 and SK just earlier on. Mouse, I'd like to see them leverage that aspect of their play. You know, try and force Fnatic to make moves that are suboptimal, either by just applying pressure and getting things off the back of that, or by making Fnatic go in.
Here we go, they are going in. Palmatoro with that Dragon's Breath. Proactive moves coming from Fnatic as the Spitfires connect, and Techno JJ starting to find a bit of life on this Idris. And we'll just repeat that, you know, it is only when Idris is playing passively, backlining, that the CP Blackfeather does have an advantage. Usually when the Idris is making the proactive play like this, he can go in and he can look for kills onto Just Man.
Missed that point.
It's going to be Doom in trouble. It's a double kill for Techno JJ as he just finds it all for Fnatic. And it's going to be a gold miner taken for them as well as they look to try and take the gold lead.
Dalsy, it's always rough when your hero has one ability that scales with CP, and then you miss that one ability. Like, I'm the Doom, it would have been better had he not shown up to the fight. That's how little he did. That was really rough for Mouse. Had On Point landed, given the shield and the fact that it probably would have hit 3, given where it was, I honestly think Mouse could have turned. You know, that was the difference between winning a fight and heavily losing one. They've given Fnatic so much gas off the back of that they're really going to be able to go for a while without refueling here. They can start to push the tempo, I think, earlier than you would expect Fnatic's composition to be able to do. You know, Palma is pretty close to having 2 items, and he actually went for an infusion off the back of that fight too, which is huge, because that's going to give him a really big power spike before he otherwise would have one.
It's going to be Fnatic looking for this fight, like you mentioned, and that infusion, just watch Palmatoro. If he starts sparkling blue, then Fnatic are wanting to kill the side of Mouse. Spitfire's connecting. This Lyra does heal up Mouse, does provide a bit of sustain in the lane. Oh, huge burst onto Palmatoro. The one shot, it goes in. Oh, Techno JJ jumped over it, trying to block it. He messed up, and now Net2Let is dead as well. Mouse sniping through Fnatic's mistakes here, AJ, and now they're going to look to try and take this turret.
That's gotta feel real bad for Fnatic. Man, that's tough. Techno was trying to make the hero play. Unfortunately, not able to do it. Mouse, they got a big window here to push in this turret, really start laying down the pain train onto Fnatic. They've gained back momentum in a game where it's critical for their team composition to have that momentum. That's the thing you got to realize about what just happened. Could not have come sooner for the side of Mousesports.
Just communication there, AJ. When you're in that scenario, one player has to stay still essentially, and the other has to get behind. And knowing who it's going to be in those clutch scenarios when it really just comes down to intuition is so important. Palmatoro clearly, as we know, was behind, but Techno JJ felt like he had to make the proactive play, and unfortunately it just went wrong. That is pretty huge for Mouse, like you mentioned. Now some tempo gain for them at full. Going to be looking to pick up his third damage item in the next couple minutes. A Tornado Trigger by the looks of things. I'm the Doom. Very close to finishing his broken myth as well, and that can be huge for just power and trying to maintain this pressure that suddenly Fnatic feel themselves under.
One thing that we've got to mention about that last engagement that we saw was it was started by Palma eating a number of glimmer shots, and you do have to be conscious as Scarf that, you know, if you lose a poke war against the Kestrel, your team is going to lose the fight 90% of the time. I think that, you know, basically Palmatoro just positioning a little bit better would have stopped that from happening. So even with the golden fusion that we've seen gained by Mouse off the back of that fight, proper positioning can mitigate a lot of what could happen here in favor of Mousesports at the very least.
Let's see how this one does go, because I like the way Mouse are approaching these team fights. They don't really have a tanky hero apart from Just Man. I'm the Doom doesn't really provide many tanky stats, neither does Apfel. Possibly one of the squishiest in the late game as far as heroes are concerned. But I'm the Doom is threatening on the front line continuously and just eating up those Batiste Ordains. With the Rose Offensive, he can jump away from them without having to use a reflex block. He doesn't even have a reflex block, mind you. And it forces Fnatic to use their one hard form of CC on a target that realistically shouldn't be CC'd. So Mouse are baiting out these Ordains, and it allows for Apfel then to position further forward and lay down damage. So it's just really clever play by Doom, baiting out the CC, making sure that Apfel isn't challenged, though. Apfel face checking this bush, will go first, isn't punished. They will be able to clear the turret here. Fnatic are going to be forced back a little bit.
One thing I want to keep my eye on, and I think I'll keep our eyes on in the fights moving forwards, is fearsome shade from Batiste. Absolutely a huge deal here. It needs to be connecting onto Kestrel. That's the person you need to be messing up with it. Only Crucible is actually able to block it right now for the Kestrel. And if it does open up a nice window for things like the Frostburn slow to start doing some serious work and buying space for Idris. You know, Techno JJ can actually start to train the Kestrel afterwards, potentially. Right now, I think that Fnatic are able to fight, but hopefully they're able to keep this game on the same kind of path where there's very little action going on for the next couple of minutes. I do think that they would like a little bit more time to ramp up. Palmatoro is, you know, wanting probably an Eve of Harvest, for example, before the next big fight happens. It does give some windows over to their opponents, though. I mean, Apfel, if he gets his own reflex block, that's going to be a big pickup. I'm the Doom. Interesting. I wonder what item he's going to go next, actually. Maybe just defense is fine. Not sure he necessarily needs to go much more aggressive, at least for the time being.
Yeah, currently got that Crystal Infusion eating up a slot. Makes things a little bit difficult. There's actually going to be double monocle for Apfel, which is definitely favored on the Kestrel. I guess I just assumed with the Blazing Salvo that it might be a Tornado Trigger. And now, last item, Apfel would likely go towards the Bone Saw. We see this quite often in the East Asia Vainglory 8 carries on Kestrel building Bone Saw. Tension Bow, obviously a great item early game and synergizes with Kestrel's Burst. And the late game Bone Saw just provides so much more. Auto attack speed means that her Glimmer Shot recharges quicker, allowing you to put more out in a team fight. And you still get that armor pierce and also armor shred as well when your Glimmer Shot starts stacking up onto a single target. So provides a lot of damage in the late game. Very good for late game. We do see I'm the Doom in a bit of trouble here. He's going to use that Rose Offensive to escape. The block is there. Here's the Fountain. Manages to escape the second one, but Palmatoro is charging forward with a single broken Myth Slack, and that is the Dragon Breath dodged away by Mouse. Now they just need to try and poke from range and sustain under this turret. They perhaps avoided the worst of it. Fnatic going to be hard pressed to actually siege this turret.
If an engagement like that goes wrong for the side of Fnatic, it really does very wrong because you have sustain from Lyra on your opponents. I think Fnatic needs to probably back away here. If they play with fire too much, Apfel might be able to make something happen. Also, on the topic of Bonesaw that you mentioned earlier on, I think it's worth mentioning that Kestrel has adrenaline stacks that people forget about, but they give her a lot of attack speed. Any on-hit effect is actually really good if it's a stacking one on her late game. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Plus, Idris is certainly something you can stack on fairly easy. You know, he's an easy target on the front line that you can start laying down the herd onto.
It's a very tense game, very slow. Not really any advantages won yet, apart from that single turret that Mouse have secured. Late game, certainly very strong for Fnatic, but it's not to say it is weak on the side of Mouse. They definitely have their late game as well, but it all comes down to their positioning and their ability to kite back, avoid engagements from Fnatic. Tight corridors, perhaps not where you want to fight, especially against an echoed Batiste. 7 seconds left on that item, and you do see Mouse move towards a slightly wider area of engagement in the lane where they can dodge those abilities. The Kraken has been on the map now for a minute here, AJ, and both teams know that a team fight gone wrong equals a huge advantage to their opponents.
Yeah, I think at this point one thing to keep your eyes on is actually vision, because both teams need to maintain good vision in the central part of the map. They both actually take Kraken fairly quickly, probably a bit quicker on the side of Fnatic, but still, you do have to be wary of it being burst down. And as a result, whoever has momentum, you know, whoever has tempo and is able to control the middle of the map better is going to have a huge edge, because something I think is really interesting is if you have control of the middle shop, you can keep restocking your flares, and your opponents have to actually back to home if they want to restock on flares. That gives you a massive advantage because you're not actually under much pressure, and your opponents need to do something as soon as they run out.
Tenno, JJ's gone in towards Apfel. Apfel very low. The Shimmer Strike onto Doom, and that's another Fear coming through. The Dragon's Breath lined up. It's a double for Palmatoro, and that's Tenno finding the A's. The tight corridors so dangerous against the echoed Batiste, and now Kraken for Fnatic.
Cannot be fighting in that kind of position on the map. Exactly like you were saying, tight corridors are the end of teams against a Scarf. Also, Idris plus Scarf, what you saw there was really awesome. The Idris gets to play kind of back, kind of safely, kind of around the Scarf to begin with, but as soon as the fight turns, he can turn on a dime, dash in very quickly, and set up, you know, a hunt onto the members of the enemies that the Scarf has actually gotten low. So the composition is working exactly as intended for Fnatic. This is really nice stuff from them. Batiste is also just kind of the glue that holds it together, because as soon as they engage onto you, you get to disengage. As soon as you find a window to fully engage, he's there with an Ordain to keep a target in range, stop him from retreating too much. The composition in the draft from Fnatic has worked out very nicely. Even if they maybe picked things in kind of a strange order, it has panned.
Just currently Mouse playing to the win conditions of Fnatic rather than their own. Unfortunately for Mouse, their win conditions aren't as proactive either against this composition from Fnatic, despite the fact that Fnatic showed so many of their cards early, and Mouse forced an Idris pick as well. The Dragon's Breath going to come out. We do see that Fearsome Shape locked up, but the first turret goes down. The Kraken will fall as well. Can Mouse chase? They're certainly looking to do so. They have the portal over the wall. The one-shot connects onto Net2Let, but Mouse, so proactive. There's the speed boost. Fnatic buying time. War Treads pop. Fnatic have gone. Unless they overstay here, AJ, they have just escaped and got so much off the map as well.
Yeah, Fnatic were able to get away quite cleanly there. Honestly, if Mouse wanted to chase, they needed to lead with the portal much more quickly, and I think they shouldn't have fired off one shot. Firing off one shot locks the Kestrel down for a while, makes it hard to actually follow. I do think there is potential for Mouse to actually execute on a chase there, but they didn't really play to that. As a result, a bunch of abilities got used that, you know, now they can't follow up with. They can't take necessarily the position on the map they'd like to. Fnatic are in a great spot. The way they lose from here is honestly by making a mistake. The onus is on them.
If Mouse start to adapt their team fights towards lane rather than jungle, I think if Mouse attempt to fight Fnatic in the jungle, unless say Fearsome Shade is so heavily whiffed, it should just be Fnatic cleaning up. We are at this 20-minute mark. Only 8 kills in 20 minutes. Both these teams playing so carefully. Fnatic, as mentioned, 8 points ahead of their opponent's Mouse here on the ladder. Currently sitting first in Europe and obviously want to go to the Unified Western Live Championships in that premier position. Last season, they came through as the 4th seeded team, I believe. Managed to take down Cyclone to progress to day 2, but then met their fate against TSM on day 2 of the spring finals. Now Fnatic in such a good spot. We talked about how they had a lot of potential AJ in the summer season. All the teammates have finished school, no longer focused on exams. They were very confident they could come into the summer season and really become the best in Europe.
Yeah, and they executed on that very nicely. I think they should be pretty happy with how things went for the team, but they do need to keep the ball rolling. These are the weeks where you need, honestly, more than any other weeks, to really just be ramping up, starting to really knuckle down and do some good practice, because once the championship hits, you've had a couple of weeks without regular play in the main season, and it is critical that during the time where you're able to have the most intense practice, the practice with the highest stakes, you utilize that effectively. If for nothing else, than to really prepare your mental game. But of course, coming in with first seed is also very useful. It does give you that slight edge on day 1 by actually not having to play at all.
Yeah, no, for sure. We do see Mouse once more in the jungle, watching for this Kraken. There's the fear onto I'm the Doom. He is able to escape. Justman, can he? The Dragon's Breath coming through. He goes down at full, burned invisible. And now it's just I'm the Doom trying to make his escape. Has one Rose offensive and he will use it now. He's just buying time. You do see Palmator and Techno JJ turn around though. Nettolet's going to make sure he can't backport this turret. Full HP, no minion wave to deal with it. I'm the Doom going to have to try and kill Nettolet here if he wants to escape, but the on point, off point as he misses it. Might be able to get the kill. The Fountain comes out. He does get it, but this turret is melting, and Palmator, Techno JJ are just going to be able to finish the game here. Fnatic meet their win conditions, and I have to say, if Mouse just hadn't been in the jungle, then that would have been the end of the game.
Yeah, I think that Mouse were not really playing to their win conditions, and that's something key to note. On top of that, you know, they really gave so many windows for Fnatic to come online. They were playing to their game. They're playing in the lane. They weren't utilizing their jungle strength with the CP Blackfeather and Lyra. I'd like to see them really tighten it up for game number 2.
We'll have to see if they're able to do so as we throw back to the desk to talk about that Fnatic win.
Fnatic continuing their dominant performance here in Europe as they go 1-0 up against Mousesports. But there was definitely a very close game. Towards the start, especially, Mouse were taking it to Fnatic. I mean, very early on, it was like 3-2 and very back and forth. It definitely could have gone either way. But then there was a singular fight where Fnatic just aced it, and from that point, it felt like there was no coming back there for Mouse.
Yeah, the scoreboard doesn't quite do that game justice. I think it was a lot closer than the final score indicates, but like you said, once Fnatic got that big ace, it was just all over. They never looked back from there. And this is the Fnatic we've kind of come to expect to see now. Incredibly mechanically sound play, playing as a team and protecting their carries.
Yeah, let's take a look at the kind of moment that really set this game up. Suijay, can you talk me through what happened here?
Yeah, this is a key fight. I don't know if you guys know, but the Fearsome Shade Ultimate has a range of 16. So look how far it goes when he echoes it. It actually hits, he blocks the first one, but the second one, the range is so far, it hits all of them. Then you have the Dragon's Breath come out, then the combo come out, then Idris is on top of them because they're feared into a wall. And that's just a really bad spot for Mousesports, unfortunately. They get the ace, they get the Kraken, and with that Kraken, they get 4 turrets. It was insane. And I felt Mousesports had a chance to win the early game. They got the first turret first. They did a good job with the poke. Once Blackfeather got Shatterglass, Kessler got a Sword Blade, and then Monaco. They should have pushed that advantage even further before Baptiste had the Echo. And they have a Lyra. Like, Lyra's stronger early game and way stronger than Scarf early game too. They needed to push turrets and objectives and just snowball it, but they didn't. They played a little passive than what I've seen from Mousesports.
And do we think that that's kind of like almost intimidation, the fact that they're up against Fnatic and knowing how strong Fnatic are right now, that you're kind of tiptoeing around some of these fights, babe?
Yeah, it definitely could be. That mental factor, the always being in the back of your mind of knowing, okay, this is the top team. We know they're really good. But those echoes just ended up being the Echo Fearsome Shades constantly. This is what we talked about beforehand, putting the opponents in a position for these Dragon Breaths to just do work. And then, of course, Techno JJ, 4-0-4 on the Idris, able to keep himself alive throughout the entire game.
And this is super important here at the end of the game. NetToilet, the captain, goes to 1v1 Doom. He knows that this isn't a 1v1 that he wins, but all he has to do is stop Doom basing, and in the meantime, the two carries finish off the game. It was excellently played. Great decision-making coming out from Fnatic.
Yeah.
They do manage to take the game.
And I like NetToilet's build, Metal Jacket with armor. He just tanked the arrows. And also, Justman's build, I don't know why he built Clockwork. He should have gotten maybe Echo and like use the Crucible the first fear and then ult out of the second fear, or use ult the Echo the Bulwark so you can stop the Scarf from like moving forward onto your team if you have two Bulwarks up. I felt like Clockwork didn't make that much sense. It doesn't offer health for Lyra, it doesn't give her more heal. Echo would have been way better for sure.
All right, so maybe the cooldown reduction, not really as necessary as just a cooldown reset entirely. But we'll see how they're going to change things up going into Game 2. Now, looking at Game 2, draft specifically, is there something Mouse needs to change coming in here? Like, is Palmatoro now at a point where like his Black Feather and his Scarf just need to be dealt with? Can you allow him to get these picks anymore?
I think you can still allow it, because what are you going to let through by not allowing it? But I think the key for me is, you have I'm the Doom, who so many people have said is the best Kestrel, arguably even in the world. And then you pick Kestrel and you don't put it on him. This is something a lot of teams have done, where they have these players that are incredibly talented at one specific hero, like above and beyond the rest. And then they pick it and put it into a different role. It seems strange to me, and we agreed on the desk that it would have probably been more effective.
For me, it's Baptiste, and Fnatic banned it, but Baptiste, I said it in the beginning, I've done my homework on the Fnatic. They just know how to play Baptiste captain, Baptiste jungle. The comps are all fine. Like, Mousesports were winning the early game. It's just when Baptiste came online, it had that one really good fight, sealed the deal against them. So Mousesports now with Baptiste off the map, they need to ban Grace here, I feel, because Grace is just too strong. It's another hero with Echo that you gotta watch out for. Instead, they banned the Lyra. Lyra is countered by Fortress, and a lot of like Cath is good into Lyra. So they're gonna give Fnatic Grace. Oh boy, and now they need to take Baron here. Just take the Baron away because he's so strong. And please, Apple, tell me you play Baron. Yes, there we go.
I just want to mention the fact that we have a first ban Baptiste here. Like, I know we're talking about how Fnatic loves Baptiste and thinks it's really strong, but the first ban is something we basically never see.
Yeah, the reason why is because it's very smart for Fnatic. It's such a good B-side draft, because if Baptiste is up and you don't take it or ban it, it just gives too many options for B-side to flex it against your A-side pick. So that's a very smart pick by Fnatic there. Catherine is banned, and then they're going to go ahead and pick up the Arden. Arden is one of Justman's best captains right now, so I feel really good about Mousesports draft so far. However, it's Grace, though. Grace is just really good into Baron because of the Echo ult. Like, Baron needs to blow someone up, but if they're going to get Echo ulted, Baron's not going to be able to sustain long enough.
Idris available as well.
Yep, and Idris is
up. Great into Baron, great with Grace. Like, this could look terrifying, and also you can go with a Scarf that we've just seen Fnatic work with a million times.
Yeah, I mean, since they have Vox open, they can still take Vox and they can echo out the Vox too. That's good into Baron as well. But then go ahead with the Idris, which is risky because now the Mousesports can pick like a Koshka or a Cruel to counter the Idris dive and just focus down whoever's diving onto that Baron.
The problem is if you're doing that, Scarf's just going to be building up broken mid stacks and getting a huge ultimate off. So I really, really like the way Fnatic has rounded out their draft, because it kind of forces Mousesports to have to split their focus. You can't take down both the Idris and a Scarf in a well-played team fight from Fnatic. You'll have to choose one or the other, and if you choose to go onto the Scarf, Idris is going to be just tearing through your team. If you choose to go after the Idris, Scarf's going to be building up and getting a big ultimate off. I think Skye is probably one of the best picks that they could have gone for here from Mousesports, but despite the Baron, I do still like the Fnatic draft a bit better.
Yep, the Skye is going to come on through. Obviously, we mentioned great at kiting, so when it comes to the Grace and the Idris, Skye can have a lot of impact during those fights, and we'll see how well that's going to go into the Scarf and things. Definitely an interesting draft from both sides. I feel like not quite meta on either side as well. We've got a couple of like interesting ways that this can happen. I feel like a lot of this is going to be down to team fight execution in this game.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty even, I would say, the draft. Grace echoes really strong late game, but Sky also counters Grace really hard and can Suri and move around the Scarf. So I love the draft from Mousesports as well. So I'm going to root for Mousesports and hope they win this one.
Okay, so we're thinking 3-game series. What about you, Bacon?
I think Fnatic, even though it is a very strong draft from Mousesports, I think both teams have a very good draft. But Fnatic just looks like a bit of a cleaner team and a little bit more, better executions coming out of Fnatic. And as long as they execute their draft the way that they want to, they should be able to win every single team fight in the late game. And so I'm going to go Fnatic.
Also, they have Palmatoro on Scarf, which seems to be unbeatable at the minute for some reason. We'll see whether it's going to be good enough coming on into this game. It's Fnatic up against Mousesports. We'll see whether Mouse can live up to their words and take this to a 3-game series. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. Let us know who you're supporting, but it's time to pass it over once more to Dowsy and Action Jackson.
Let's see how Fnatic are able to handle this Baron. Has been such a hot pick this season here, AJ. Have to see if Apple can play it to perfection. As for Mouse, they cannot really afford to lose this game.
Yeah, this is a really critical one for them. I think the compositions are pretty interesting here. I'm very happy that the final pick was a Sky. From Mouse, I think we've seen, both today and in the past, that it's one of the few things that does have a really good matchup into the Grace. And yeah, when you're picking your jungler to counterpick their captain, that doesn't feel great, man. But at the same time, I think it is respectable against the other picks and great into that one. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Plus, it's something which diversifies their threats a lot. Baron is a big, scary carry in the lane. And then you're adding Sky, who also does very high amounts of damage. I think that you're really putting Fnatic in a position where it's hard for someone like Palmatoro, who doesn't necessarily fare very well against 2 spread-out threats, to be effective.
Yeah, we'll have to see if this Scarf in the late game is enough to take down this Baron as well. Bit of engage here. Justman taking a bit of damage. The Goop slows him down. Nettolet with a Retribution speeds forward and slows down I Am the Doom. Palmatoro, Spitfire won't quite connect here. We do see a rotate from Apfel from the lane as well. Fnatic know that the Baron is coming. They've got Techno JJ in hot pursuit, but he can't get into the fight quick enough. This has gone wrong for Fnatic, and Palmatoro will be first blood over to I'm the Doom. Good rotation from Apfel.
Very good rotation, and also somewhat fortunate that I'm the Doom managed to get the Treant kill there. I think had that not happened, maybe the fight goes just long enough for the rotation out of the Idris, Techno JJ, to actually make a difference. As it was, he wasn't able to do anything particularly in that engagement. But overall, Mouse, they're definitely the team who has, I think, the potential to snowball harder in the early game. In the mid game is when you got to watch out for any advantage Fnatic garners for themselves. But in the early game, both this Sky and to a certain extent this Baron, as we've seen a couple of times so far this season, can get pretty out of control. So a fight like that, definitely good news for them. It hasn't tangibly led to very much yet, but it going on to the Sky, I think, is definitely the best target. She's someone who every crystal bit matters on. You don't need to necessarily see the huge difference between 3 crystal bits and a heavy prism and a crystal bit versus just, 4 crystal bits or whatever for her to see a big improvement. And as such, any gold from a kill matters a lot in the early game for a Sky.
No, it certainly does. We're going to see another fight break out in the jungle, perhaps, as it is going to be actually the Treant secured by Justman. Goes him a bit of healing here. No contract for Justman. Isn't going to be healing with every jungle creep or large creep minions. Bobs, as we call them. I call them. There's going to be this Elder Treant secured by Mouse here, and I'm the Doom going to be keeping the pace that he needs. Moving up to the lane here. Techno JJ very respectfully dodging away.
Yeah, and I like what you said about keeping the pace there. I would like I'm the Doom to continue doing that. Great Holy Nova from Net Toilette, though. Now, this is a game like the last one where, we got to take into account whose jungle 2v2 is stronger, etc. I think very clearly the Arden and Sky has an advantage, so long as at least they land the majority of one of the forward barrages. As a result, I quite like Net just staying in the lane, relying on Palma to farm quickly and safely and then back away, and acknowledging the fact that ganks with the Vanguard speed up are very threatening in lane. You need Holy Nova up there.
Pretty impressed by Apfel's happy feet so far. Dodging skill shots left, right, and center, whether it just be position or jump jets. Definitely helping him stay in this lane, as he doesn't have any sustain other than the health potions he's got in his inventory. It's very unusual to see an Arden not go Iron Guard contract, but I guess Mouse just felt confident that they could sustain this early stage of the game. We do see the Fountain now purchased up for Just Man. Apfel getting closer and closer to that first damage item on the Baron. The Sorrow Blade can really hit hard. The same story is on the other side of the fold for Techno JJ. Once he gets that Sorrow Blade, of course, he'll unlock his divergent paths on the weapon power, and it means that he will have that blink on the Shroud Step, which is so threatening to Apfel in this Baron.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really powerful. It's threatening both to the Baron and also to the Sky somewhat, because it means you're not spending any time in transition when you're trying to dodge forward barrage. You just immediately get to move, and that can actually make it very difficult to stick on top of an Idris with forward barrage in these fights. Also, one thing we didn't mention is how good the Idris is into the Baron full stop. The ultimate actually extremely good at sticking on him through jump jets, which most heroes have a tough time doing because of its ability to stop crowd control effects. This is definitely a composition where both teams actually have one thing that I would describe as a silver bullet against one other thing. I think the Sky is a silver bullet against Grace a lot of the time. I think that Idris is a silver bullet against Baron a lot of the time. But it's definitely a fair fight. The compositions went quite nicely for both teams.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of rock, paper, scissors going on, and three-way ties for sure. Idris very happy to jump over Arden's Gauntlet, but an Arden Gauntlet can ruin a Scarf stay, especially with the Dragon Fight coming out, Dragon's Breath. Very interesting times. I'm actually very interested to see how team fights in the late game work as well. From experience, sometimes you cannot focus a Baron as Idris when there's a Sky on the team as well. Sky can just be such a threat, and sometimes you need to be taking her off out of the picture before you can even get to the Baron. When that's the case, it just allows Apfel so much free damage. So very intrigued to see the win conditions and how this game does progress for the side of Fnatic, and how they are playing the late game fights. Mouse in a great position to put the pressure down right now. Their range advantage coming up huge. Death from above splits the team. They're really wanting to try and get this turret off the map.
Talking about how Fnatic need to play the fights in the late game, I think we need to be seeing Grace with an Echo as a massive priority. You need to be able to keep Palmatoro alive. He's, I think, the really big threat that people on the side of Mouse need to worry about. Or, maybe in certain fights, it's going to be valuable to try and save Tetno when he dives. But I think a lot of the time he is actually agile enough and slippery enough that he won't need the heals compared to Palma.
The Echo could allow for both. First heal to Tetno JJ as he tries to deal with Apfel, taking him out of the picture, and the second one over to Palmatoro as he is threatened perhaps by the opposition of Mouse. Mouse not quite pulling the trigger on that execute there. They definitely were doing a lot of damage to Techno JJ, but he's now healed it all up with the Book of Eulogies. 1,500 gold in his inventory, very close to getting himself a Poison Shiv as well, allowing him to sustain with his auto attacks, as well as apply mortal wounds to Apfel, which cuts down the healing he can receive in team fights. Very important that Apfel isn't being healed as much as possible as far as Fnatic are concerned. We do see that Palmatoro is actually going to go towards what seems to be an Evil Harvest second item, whereas I'm the Doom's looking for that Broken Myth.
Yeah, I think the Broken Myth is going to be more important for Sky. I mean, she is not currently in a lot of risk anyway. Baron is really going to be the main focus of the Idris, and Palmatoro is just going to hit whoever is in a good position to hit, so don't be in a good position to be hit. I think that going for the Broken Myth turns her into enough of a priority that it makes it really difficult deciding whether you go for the Baron or the Sky.
This is such a good death from above. Wow. Sorry, Net to Let just is completely washed there. Now he has his ultimate, and he wants to use it on Techno JJ as a priority, but maybe he needs it as well. Does have Life Spring, so could heal this all up. And Mouse once more going to go back. Mouse, I don't think, realize how much of a driving seat they are, despite the fact they got Baron. A lot of teams often assume, especially in Europe, that when you have Baron on your side, you're playing the late game. But, you know, we've seen from TSM time and time again, when they have Baron, they feel like they own the early game just through constant aggression with the jump jets. And I think Mouse perhaps playing this one a little bit too safely.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that this is really a window for Mouse. I think the later this game goes, the less odds they have. I think Idris and Scarf will be doing more than Baron and Sky in this particular instance, just because they're backed up by Grace, who gives them each an additional life sometimes. But, you know, I do like that they're pressuring the turret. I think that's the correct place to be applying pressure. So at least they're getting some work done here, even if they're not getting as much work done here as I might like.
Echo now completed for Net to Let. The Divine Interventions will be there. Techno JJ diving forward, looking for a kill onto Apple. Here's the Dragon's Breath. Gauntlet going to catch up Apple as well. He is going down. Very safe now. Oh, is he though? No, he is, and Chakram will find the kill. I was wondering if he was going to dodge it. It was just like, that cannot hit, but it did. Apple just takes it to the face, and that is the kill. Going over to Fnatic. They have found a window with that Echo. They just felt so confident taking the team fights. Techno JJ knowing that he had the back taken care of. Adjustment now, perhaps a little bit too far forward. Phase checking this bush is going to escape for now, it seems. Fnatic not going to dive too deep. Still respectful of I'm the Doom's damage. Are going to rotate though and try and steal away some jungle.
Yeah, that Echo was a massive power spike for the side of Fnatic. It gave them a different lease on life, and it actually enabled them to fight through a lot of what was being offered by I'm the Doom. One thing to note early on here with the decision between Eve and Broken Myth is energy and your ability to use it over the course of a fight. I'm the Doom Sky is a fantastic pick into Grace, but one thing you have to consider is that by Grace extending the fight so much, in the mid-game, Sky doesn't necessarily have the energy she needs to be as effective as she would like to be. You need to make sure that every time you're committing to a forward barrage, you're getting your money's worth. And in that fight, in that trade, I feel like Mouse had not fully set themselves up for what might be coming. They didn't really expect that the Echo was coming so soon, and they used a lot of forward barrage very liberally prior to the fight, trying to push. That did mean that there wasn't all the gas in the tank needed for Mouse to actually burn through the number of ultimates that was coming out from Net to Let.
We do have the Broken Myth now finished for I'm the Doom. Hatful though tanking up a turret shot, puts a bit of pressure onto this Baron here. Has the gold to go purchase a Tornado Trigger if he wants. Oh, Net to Let's melting. Net to Let just about walks away, but perhaps we'll have to use one of those ultimates on himself. The Echo is available for him to channel if he wishes to. That Chakram did a lot of damage to Apfel. It's going to be Techno JJ diving forward. Founder comes out, but oh, a huge Gauntlet turns him up. Gets the 400 heal. Going on to Apfel here. Jumps away. Apfel almost loses his life to the Chakram, but it is doomed to find the kill. And he's walking away from Palmatora as well. Just about surviving. Dodges that Spitfire as well. The turret will be under siege by Fnatic. Mouse, though, with a single kill, able to clear the lane as well. Justman is safe. So is I'm the Doom. This turret going to be fine as well. They might even find a kill into Net here. Net goes down to the Arden. Palmatora looking for a return. He will get it. Can't quite take down the Scarf, but overall, you have to feel that is Mouse walking away with an advantage in that teamfight.
Absolutely. I think had, the side of Fnatic been able to take down the turret, it would have been a very good trade for them. But as it was, not ideal. Tetna is going to struggle to do too much work onto the Baron by himself. The counterplay to Idris being good at sticking on Baron is for Baron to just turn around and deal a lot of damage to the Idris, which is what we were seeing there, and he's backed up by Just Man too. So it's really hard to find the opening. He really needs his captain nearby. This all being said, I don't think Fnatic mind too much the series of events that happened. Yes, it was not ideal, but they didn't lose their turret. Nothing sticky objectively went down the way of Mouse, and they can just refuel and come back to the lane, which is key to note. Palmatoro, he's got actually an infusion now, so he's going to be doing a lot more work in this next fight. Had he had one in the previous fight, certainly it would have been 2 kills, bare minimum. to Fnatic in the first exchange.
And the broken myth as well now on that Scarf can stack up the damage, whereas he didn't before. At full, at 3 damage items, looking for his fourth. Death from Above going to split Fnatic, but no damage being dealt just yet. Here comes the Iron Cannon straight onto the turret, and that will be that first objective going down in favor of Fnatic. Gives them gives them a 2,000 gold lead here, although they are going to back away. That Tornado Trigger picked up. Justman popping his War Treads to escape the Goop Spitfire combination. 30 seconds left on the clock. You have to wonder if this gold miner will go down at all. Doesn't seem likely.
Very difficult for either of these teams to take it safely without being jumped on, so I doubt they're going to. I do think that the Kraken being on the map is something that just favors Fnatic, though. I think they threaten to kill it more quickly, and I think they threaten to interrupt an attempt on it a little bit more effectively as well. Big thing to note here, though, is that Mouse really do have a lot of room to work with on the map by taking the turret. I think that Fnatic are going to struggle for the next 2 minutes or so just to keep pace with the rotations coming out of Mouse.
There's a Tenjin Bow ready for Techno JJ to purchase up here. It's a pretty big power spike for the Idris as he completes his weapon power path. Palmatoro not too close to the Eve of Harvest just yet, as he's purchased a couple of infusions for himself. Needs another, I believe, 1,300 gold. He'll be there. Still pretty hard for the Scarf to get. There's going to be turret progressed onto here as the Iron Cannon comes down just to clear the wave. Mouse still playing very respectfully as the chakram damage, even if a Spitfire connects as well, it equals Apfel's death. The great thing about Scarf with Idris is that long range on the Spitfire. If a Spitfire connects onto Apfel, then Techno JJ essentially just deletes Apfel, and it's almost impossible to stop it happening. The Vanguard Shield is your only move, but even through that, Idris can poke and stick to the Baron, which just is such an issue. So this is why Mouse are so respectful of laning against Fnatic, even though they might have the damage or the ability to take down Fnatic. They just realize that Apfel is actually super vulnerable to this composition.
Yeah, and he's not going for early defensive itemization like we've seen some of the Barons go for in North America when they get ahead early. He's gone very committed into the offensive path, only just now upgrading that armor to tier 2, which sort of exacerbates the issue that you were discussing previously, where he can get burst down very, very quickly by the Scarf. Techno JJ, I want to talk about him as well. I really think he needs to hit his next defensive item for Fnatic to feel super comfortable. He's got to be the one creating space for Scarf, and right now, he's probably going to die too quickly against physical damage, which, of course, against the Baron is a humongous part of what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, as long as Techno JJ is the one diving onto Apfel before Apfel lands the crit, then the huge shield you get with a Shroud Strap can negate that first auto attack, double auto attack. But you're right, he needs to get the armor. He needs to get that full metal jacket online so that he can do the work he needs to do and be that Baron deletion tool. It's another very tense game here, AJ. Neither of these teams really want to be the one to make the proactive move and perhaps make the mistake as well that goes along with it. This turret is actually going to go down. No, Fnatic decide not to tank it up. Got vision of Justman moving in with the gauntlet ready to go as well, and decided it wasn't worthwhile.
I feel like, even though the last fight we saw didn't go this way, that Fnatic has a slight edge. I think they've hit that point. But it's really going to be dependent on where the fights happen. And that's pretty hard to predict at this point because both teams are trying to be very efficient with their rotations and both farm the jungle and the lane, whilst also maintaining vision on Kraken. You know, there's so many things to consider. So it's going to be about who pulls the trigger first. I actually think that whoever acts first probably comes out behind in this situation. You really want to force your opponent to act somehow, because both teams have good disengage and re-engage potential.
Might say that if it's Fnatic diving onto the Baron, then it could be okay for them. It really just depends on how close Techno JJ can get to Apfel, We do see a lot of damage being put out. Does force Fnatic back here. Fnatic can't really afford to tank up too much of this poke. Ooh, Gillette. Huge damage onto him. He's going to have to heal up. Fnatic's now split. Techno JJ on the side here is going to have to look to escape. At full diving forward, isn't quite able to find it. Wall Tread's popped. Here comes the Dragon's Breath. They're wanting to go in, but a fantastic Gauntlet holds up Fnatic and stops him from aggressing as one. Is it enough is the question. Double death from above, but Apfel is still in trouble. Techno JJ will find the kill. It's a 1-for-1 so far, but I'm the Doom has Techno JJ in his sights. The heal, not enough from Net2Let to save him. Divine Invention will not come through, and now it is Net2Let looking to escape. I'm the Doom chasing with the Series Strike. Needs to land his forward barrage, cuts off the exit, and that's the ace Mouse needed. The first decisive team fight goes their way, and a Kraken will be their reward.
I felt like Fnatic had the edge, but you don't have the edge in any fight that you face when you walk into death from above the way that they did. And also, they didn't really, I think have the same cohesion they needed to in the fights. Palmator was like, I've committed to this Dragon's Breath, so we have committed to this fight, when in reality it needed to be, I've committed to this Dragon's Breath I shouldn't have, because now they've got a Gauntlet available. My team doesn't have Reflex blocks, we already used Crucible. It's time for me to leave. They forced the issue in that exchange they really should not have. As a result, Mouse gain a huge amount of tempo. They pick up the Kraken. This is devastating, honestly, for Fnatic. It's going to take a lot of work for them to build back from the deficit they put themselves at.
I'll have to see if they decide to pull the gun immediately and try and take down this Baron, or they're going to allow a push. That first turret going to go down. Here's Net2Let looking for the flank. They are going in for this. He has that shield. Death from above catches him. Oh, the Gauntlet as well. Divine Invention coming through. Techno JJ trying to sustain through it, but Justman just holding them all at bay. First turret goes down, and Palmator is in trouble as I'm the Doom lays down the damage. Apfel is going to be in a 1v1 against this Idris, but Techno JJ gets deleted. I'm the Doom handles Palmator, and Net2Let is wishing for intervention, but it will not come his way. The ace comes through for Mouse, and this is game. We're going to a third for this series.
Really strong turnaround by Mouse at the end there to pick up the win. I do think that Fnatic crumbled under the pressure of, everyone's been through it, right? In the late game, just like, what do we do? How do we execute on our plan? They aggressed too heavily in the previous fight, and then they did so again in the final fight, where they actually tried to set something up rather than just using Scarf to kill Kraken very quickly and forcing the engage out of the side of Mousesports. We talked about it, Dowsey. He who acts first in this situation was going to be at the disadvantage because both teams had strong disengage that would enable them to then re-engage and actually have position in the fights. Moving into the next game, I want to see more discipline and patience from Fnatic.
Patience, we'll have to see if they have it. It is going to be game 3 on the way as Mouse fight back, not wanting to drop this series. Let's go back to the desk to break down what happened.
Looks like Mouse's bootcamp is paying off. Phenomenal game from them, tripling the scoreline of Fnatic by the end of the game and managing to get that win on the board. We are going to game 3, gentlemen. Talk me through some of the action just a little bit there, because it was incredibly, similarly to game 1 in the series, incredibly close in the early game, and then there's a singular fight that suddenly just swings everything in the favor of Mouse there.
Yeah, Mousesports took full advantage of the mobility of their composition. With Baron and Skye, they were able to keep themselves far enough away from the team that when Idris went diving in, they could focus fully on Idris because Palmator wasn't really able to get involved. There was lots of fights, especially the last fight in particular, where Palmator just couldn't have an impact on the team fight, and as a result, it allowed the side of Mousesports to take advantage, take down Techno JJ, and find the win.
Yeah, this game is very interesting because they let Baron get to late game, but Mouse actually had the lead. They were ahead by 1.5k gold at the 7-minute mark, got first blood, and got the first turret at the 14:30 mark. The first turret went down, and they got a 3k gold lead at the 17 minutes. And then Fnatic did a good job engaging with Grace Echo, but they didn't do much with it after that. They never got a first turret. They never pushed it. I feel like once you had Echo and Grace, you needed to push that huge power spike that Grace has, and they only did it once. And then late game, the gauntlets from Justman were just beautiful. They landed the gauntlet, stun Idris 3 times that game, along with Sky ult stun, and then Baron crit damage, hitting Scarf and Idris for 537. That was a key fight that they won because Fnatic saw that Baron wasted the jump, and then they engaged onto them, knowing that the jump is down. And then Justman puts the gauntlet down, counter engages, Sky stun, Baron crits both Scarf and Idris, but landing a Sky death from above on 2 carries was beautiful play by there. This is the fight here. So critical. See, they know Baron's jump is down. Baron has 7 seconds on his jump. He can't do much, but look at Scarf goes in trying to land that ult with no broken mid stacks really. And look at this Sky ultimate that comes down. It hits Idris and Scarf. And then look at the damage from Baron. Watch that one rocket fly out there and gets a crit for 537. Boom. And look at the damage that's being done. And that won them that fight right there and turned the game around because that was a crucial fight for them.
Yeah, at the same time, you have to look on the other side of the fold, though, because that's twice in that fight that we saw Techno JJ get stunned without using the Aegis that he had in his inventory. So it's a misstep by the side of Fnatic, but obviously Mousesports did a great job of creating that misstep and allowing that even to be a potential mistake for the side of Fnatic.
Right, and I took a note there. That fight there, Raph had Crucible but did not use it. So that was critical. He needed to Crucible and avoid the Sky stun. Otherwise, that fight could have been different if he Crucibled. So those are just one little thing from both the carries and the positioning, getting hit by Sky ult, and then the captain needs to then disrupt the win condition. And if the captain misses that, then boom, you have a beautiful combo done by Mousesports that wins him that fight.
And you also pointed out in that fight, the Scarf ult coming through with no broken mid stacks. That happened at least 3 times in this fight down the stretch, where Mousesports' positioning, again, being able to position themselves very defensively once Idris makes that rush in, Scarf almost is obligated to follow up with the ultimate regardless of how many breaking point stacks were built up, or broken mid stacks, sorry. And Mousesports positioned themselves in a way so that when that forced ultimate came out, it didn't have the broken mid-stack power behind it, and that was one of the keys for them being able to win that fight, was not getting just destroyed by the Dragon's Breath.
I want to say one last thing. Justman, the gauntlets though, to stun Idris and Havalafar on Idris, who probably one of his best heroes, to land 3 gauntlet stuns on an Idris who can dodge it. Beautiful and great by Justman for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to see whether Arden is a higher priority in this draft as well, because it's something we know that Fnatic love to play as well. We've seen that Toilette play that Arden plenty of times. Yeah. Maybe that's something you have to take away from Mouse.
And like I said, I knew that with Arden on Justman, they're going to do really well because his Arden is just beautiful and one of the best in EU for sure. So Baron's going to be picked up here. Blackfeather is picked because he's mobile. He can stick onto Baron, sorry. And I feel like Blackfeather may be better than Idris in certain situations, depending on the CC that is normally put together with a Baron composition because of his Rose offensive ultimates there. Grace will be banned. It's funny, Grace is not first picked by either team, so it's very smart by Fnatic actually to not first pick that Grace so that Mousesports can take away that Blackfeather from them. And Tenno is great on Blackfeather.
Well, we are rocketing through the draft to start this one off. All of the bans of the first picks are done, and now Fnatic have to decide what direction to take this draft. Obviously, Blackfeather likely going to the jungle, but we've seen it in lane plenty of times this season as well. Definitely an option for them. Catherine's still on the table. Even without the Batiste there, Catherine is an option, but it is going to be the Arden locked in.
Yeah, Arden is going to make it so that, Justman will have to use the jump jets to avoid gauntlet walls. And if you can position it properly, if you can make it, or sorry, not Justman, Apfel, sorry, will have to use the jump jets to avoid the gauntlet walls. And if you can position it properly so he has to jump defensively out, then you're going to be preventing a lot of damage from being dealt onto your team.
Yeah, I like the Arden pick here. They're taking it away from Justman because the Baron Arden combo was so strong. I wonder if Mousesports is still going to pick the Sky here. I really like I'm the Doom on Sky. It's good into the Blackfeather because Blackfeather is going to be wanting to dive onto Baron, and Sky can then kite with the Baron and provide a really strong frontal assault with the 4 barrage to prevent a dive. So I'm wondering if they're going to go ahead and take that Sky and then potentially run out with a Catherine or Finn. So yeah, they're going to take the Sky here, and I think Finn, I like Justman's Finn a lot. So I think he may go with the Finn versus the Catherine or Lance here because that's something that he's really good with, provides a lot of fortified health, has a Quibble stun. If they can land a Sky stun with Baron, with Finn Quibble would be really good. But actually going with the Lance here, which is fine too.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit more Lance recently starting to sneak back on into the meta. Towards the start of this season, it wasn't really seen that much, but we're seeing more and more of it, and it's definitely... I mean, Lance is a hero that's all down to execution, right? If you can land those impales, if you can get the CC down, phenomenal. But if you miss them in those fights, it's such a crucial ability that you have to be consistent with.
Yeah, it really is, but it can set up your team so well defensively, especially with the rest of Mousesports' lineup. They can use the Lance to knock opponents away while they're positioning defensively, which is what we saw them do in the previous game and worked so well, was that defensive positioning.
So really good draft by Mousesports here. Is Fnatic going to risk it and take a Koshka and try to force the early game? Or are they going to go with the Samuel and try to focus the front line and poke, and then Blackfeather can dive in with the Samuel? Or are they going to go Ozo and be able to jump around and hit Baron and Sky? They're actually going with the Taka. We have not seen Taka come out a lot, but Taka does directly counter Sky and Baron here.
This is a very aggressive composition coming out from Fnatic right here. It's like, okay, you've got two big mechs that want to kite away and stay at the back of the fight. We're going to go with two hardcore melee assassins that want to jump into that backline and finish them off. How does this line up, though? Because Taka is something that we very rarely see in the Vainglory 8 right now. Is this something that you can be aggressive in the early game, or do you have to wait a little while to get online?
You can absolutely be aggressive in the early game with a Taka. Taka is so strong. I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen Taka very much, because with what the meta has been, Taka works well into a lot of what we've been seeing picked up. Like you said, Baron, Sky counters those two extremely hard. And if you can time your Chitin with the jump jets, and use it just after the jump jets come out, use the Chitin, you will dodge all of the damage from the double rockets and just completely shut down a Baron.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about Taka is your A, you can dodge abilities, you can dodge CC, you can dodge damage. Like, that can be crucial. It's also quite difficult to time it correctly. It's not a huge window of dodging. Like, how do we expect Fnatic to play then? Just all-out aggression from the word go? Are they just going to be invading
Yeah, I hope they go full
in?
Shatterglass Taka or double tension bow Blackfeather Taka and then just blow two squishies up. If Mousesports gets an Echo on Lance late game and Sky Baron get late game, then Mousesports will win, because Echo Lance is going to be able to double CC a Taka or a Blackfeather with two get-in walls.
All right, so once again, we've had this conversation a lot of times. Fnatic have to be proactive. They have to make things happen for themselves if they want to take the series. Let's bear in mind how important this series is. Mouse are in the tiebreaker right now on that 19-point tiebreaker. Fnatic in first place, but easily could be toppled this week if other teams manage to take it. We've got to get on into this game. This is going to be hype. I cannot wait to jump onto the map for this one. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. Let us know whether you want Fnatic to continue their reign of dominance or whether you think Mouse are going to climb back up to the top of the ladder. It's time to head onto the Halcyon Fold, though, and pass it back once again to Action Jackson and Dowsy.
And I think that is the key word of this series here, Munja Balls. Proactivity, especially for Fnatic. A dive composition means they cannot be waiting for a miracle to drop in their laps. They have to be going in and they have to be deleting either at full or I'm the Doom off of the Halcyon Fold.
You know, honestly, Dowsy, we've been talking about being proactive in the early game quite a bit today. I've seen a few comps where they had slight edges in jungle 2 versus 2s, and I felt like they should be a bit more aggressive. This is really the extreme of that. And based on what we've seen today, I don't know if they're going to be able to execute on being that aggressive. It's something that no team has really been, aside from, I guess, Leon on Calamity, but we saw how that worked out. Let's try and keep our focus on that in the early game. In the later game, definitely I think we've got to shift our focus a little bit to looking at how, you know, I'm the Doom and Apfel are kiting around and things like of that nature. But for the time being, really, the onus is on Fnatic. They got to get stuff done.
Yeah, they really do. And very intrigued to see how Palmatora plays this Taka. We don't get to see Taka very often at the higher levels of competitive play. Into Sky certainly can be very advantageous, but Justman can shut it down with a well-timed Giffian War. You see Palmatora aggressing deep, looking for some damage, but Net2Let says no man, double impale for days, and that was all across the middle of the map. And this
I'm pretty excited to see Taka, by the way. I think this is a pick which obviously has not been very prevalent recently, but it does have a place. You know, the place is, I want to deal with this Baron early, I want to deal with this Sky early, that kind of thing. It is going to be probably the proc build, based on the fact that the Stormguard banner has been picked up already. I actually quite like that when you've got someone who is dealing heavy weapon out of the lane like a Blackfeather. I think that they have a lot of upfront damage. They can really jump in and lay down the pain. But Net spending all of his time up here in lane is something I think is kind of interesting. Blackfeather should, again, by farming on the top side of his lane, hopefully be able to deal quite nicely with gank attempts, even without the inherent ability he gains at level 6.
I'm the
So I
dude's in
would
trouble
like
here,
to see-
JJ.
Oh.
He may go down for first blood. Palmatoro, no, it's Net who picks it up, but Fnatic will find it nonetheless. It's the proactivity in the jungle. Starting to find it. And Palmatoro now looking to find Justman, who tried to protect his backs but only loses his life. It's Net to Let on a killing spree, and these backs to be taken by Fnatic.
Very strong stuff there. I like how at the beginning of the game I was like, yeah, we got to keep our eyes on the early aggression, and then I looked at the lane to try and make a point about it. Let's refocus on the jungle, guys. Really, really strong play out of Fnatic, doing exactly what they need to be doing, applying the pressure early. It is unfortunate that Net Toilette got the kill credit for both of those, because you would like Palmatoro to snowball out of control here. That's not necessarily something that will happen too easily.
4-minute
But-
fountains, man. That's what it's about.
It's only about that if you can leverage it into something, like maybe a very early sentry kill or gold mine kill. Because Fountain is not that useful in a 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2 skirmish, but it's really good in a full team fight. I mean, it's good in a 2 versus 2, but it depends on the type of 2 versus 2 and what you're trying to accomplish, is the point I'm making. Here comes a bit of a dive from Fnatic. I like that play, but I think they're going to find the most fruitful endeavors in the jungle, to be honest. It's pretty easy for Apple to just rocket jump back.
Net is sitting very close to finishing that fountain. It should be on track to go down and take it now, actually, as far as the gold is concerned. So is very much a 4-minute fountain for Net whilst Justman is going to struggle to get his. He's going to stick around in lane, though, just provide a bit of pressure onto this Baron, whilst Justman has to roam down into the jungle to make sure that I'm the Doom is safe. They're trying to delay I'm the Doom as much as possible on this guy, and they can look to do it for a little bit, but as soon as I'm the Doom hits level 6, there is opportunities to catch someone in a death from above. Sora Blade completed for Apfel at this 4.5-minute mark. Very nice timing for him. Techno JJ with the Poison Shiv first, then likely to go into a Sora Blade of his own. And Net maybe not getting as flashy as far as timings are concerned, but does complete that fountain now, has a lot of consumables in his inventory as well. The flares and the scout traps vision going to be a pretty big talking point, I think, this game, AJ, especially since they need to be keeping tabs on where this Tucker is.
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually. I was about to say, I think it's important to realize that, yeah, he didn't go for the fastest fountain possible. He actually chose, because he didn't need it, to go for vision instead. And I think that was the smarter option. Helps him leverage his advantage into more kills more easily.
There's a big fight breaking out here. Palmatoro in that depth from above, but gets healed up. Fountains have been used by both teams, but it was a 2 versus 3 for too long, and Fnatic are just too low to be able to continue into this one. Just great ultimate positioning, really, from I'm the Doom.
I'd like to see Palmatoro focus a little bit more on counter jungling in the strictest sense. You know, actually taking away camps from Mousesports. Currently, Palmatoro is actually behind on farm to I'm the Doom, even with I'm the Doom going down early. And I don't feel like Palmatoro is finding necessarily great advantages elsewhere on the map. Plus, if you're going Stormguard banner, part of the reason why that's historically been so good is that you're able to kill camps very quickly, which is obviously great if you're invading and taking your opponent's camps. But again, Palmatoro choosing the more obvious plan of just going for kills when he finds the opportunity, which he hasn't been finding all that frequently.
See how this little engagement happens here. I think Palmatoro did manage to sneak up into that top bush without Mouse knowing he was there. And there it is, the engage coming in. X-Retsu, good dodge onto Justman's Impale. Apfel down to half HP now. There's a lot of mortal wounds on the side of Fnatic. That X-Retsu, the poison ship early on Techno JJ. Apfel and I'm the Doom, many ways to have their healing cut down.
Yeah, and that's going to be really, really nice as we head into the later stages of the game for them. Looking at item power spikes for a second, It is worth noting that Tetno now has his Poison Shiv and enough gold in the bank to go back and pretty soon upgrade to maybe a Sar Blade or even a Serpent's Mask we sometimes see as a second item in Europe especially after the Poison Shiv. So that's going to be a nice power spike for the side of Fnatic. One thing to note though is that regardless of all these power spikes, it's actually really difficult for Fnatic to push lane. Like, they don't have good turret taking on their team, and in fact there's good defensive turrets on the side of Mouse. So Fnatic need to find their advantages in the jungle, whether it be by getting kills or stealing camps or just by getting gold mine. You know, they need to do something in that area of the map. They're not well positioned to do it just yet. They have not been prioritizing that part of the map. They've been focusing on getting Tetno good farm. I don't think this is a race you win. You know, I don't think that getting Tetno farm is going to matter necessarily against a Baron and a Sky in the late game.
Very interesting just there. Netzalet with a gauntlet that had been dodged well and truly by Apfel before it was even laid. A little bit slow on the timing there. I guess Palmatoro kind of forced the jump jets back and Netzalet didn't really adapt to the situation. I'm intrigued to see if Tetno JJ does go back and pick up this Sorrow Blade. Has the money now, costs 2,100 with the heavy steel in your inventory. Palmatoro's decided to go a Shatterglass build here. Really looking for that burst damage. Has a battery in his inventory. May go towards a Broken Myth next. Infusion purchased up. Fnatic recognizing that this is their opportunity to really start snowballing the game, especially with Tetno JJ now Sorrow Blade there. However, the wasted gauntlet does mean it is 60 seconds until they are going to have CC to aid them.
They might not need it. I mean, they did just spike heavily on 2 damage items, but I think realistically they do, and that's bad news. You know, they're giving a lot of time and space to Mousesports, who've had 2 kills. Remember that game earlier on where Leon just went crazy? Yeah, it didn't work, but that was the kind of aggression that we needed to see. He just needed to be backed up by his team and not go so deep. This is not even close to that. I think Fnatic have maybe even lost the ability to have the edge in fights. That's how slow out of the gates they have been this game. Because you got to remember, like, Baron's building Tension Bow this game. Tension Bow and Sorrow Blade, look at how much damage he's going to do against Palmatoro, who has no defense.
Yeah.
This is a really difficult game from this onwards for Fnatic to win. And I'm surprised in a game with stakes as high as they were, they actually committed to a strategy which is so linear and so telegraphed, right? Like, you know what they're trying to do these things and you'll stop it.
It's, it seems odd. Fnatic are not playing like the Fnatic that we've seen here in Europe so often. You know, Fnatic praise for their aggression, for their you know, adaptation of North American meta, bring it to Europe and just playing like an entirely different European team. This week, there's something off, and I'm not entirely sure what it is and the reasons for it. Apart from the fact that it is just very slow gameplay. Oh, jump jets have been used at full. This is when you go in. There's the gauntlet. It's blocked up immediately, though. Fnatic aren't able to execute on Apfel's aggression there. Could have been a forced error. The reflex block for Apfel, a very early Aegis, going to save his life.
Yeah, nice stuff there. I like that he went for this reflex blocks early, too. And the fact that he upgraded to an Aegis, actually, because you got the Shatterglass on Tetno. Sorry, Palma. It makes some sense. Man, this is getting really rough. Fnatic, maybe just getting some vision, baiting them to a rotation, and then pushing turret. Gotta get some kind of objective, so that might be the answer to sort of get the ball rolling here for Fnatic again. As it stands, they're not accomplishing much, though. I like Clockwork. I think we're past the point in the game where 1 rotation of spells for Taka does anything. So 2 is probably pretty useful. Maybe even an Echo would be fine later on. We'll see.
I think you do need to get into the Broken Myth as quickly as possible because you can just see the shielding is being stacked up and prioritized. Yeah. There is just not enough damage without a piercing spear, piercing shard even, for Palmatoro. I'm the Doom's going to have his Aegis finished soon as well. Impale dodged. Fnatic backing out of this corridor. When are they going to finally engage their need? 30 seconds on the gauntlet means they aren't going to be looking to go too aggressively. Mouse, they are being given everything they need here, the ability and time to scale up in towards the late game, get this Baron and this Skye towards those scary stages. You see Netelet signaling 16 seconds on his ultimate, 10 now. There's going to be a War Treads purchased up here. That could be the sign that Fnatic are going to look to try and use that Gauntlet off cooldown.
You know, Palmatoro is a player who historically I've thought his Taco and his Kroll, for example, very, very impressive. But recently, and you've heard the desk mention this a couple of times today, he's been playing a lot of Scarf. He's been playing these current meta heroes that work a little bit differently, and I feel like he's not settling very nicely back into the role of being the aggressor. You know, so that's not what Scarf does, for example. I wonder how much practice Fnatic has put into this comp. It looks a little unpolished.
13 minutes, and this aggression we expected just hasn't been there. That is possibly the buzzword, proactivity, not being found. No points on the board as far as that is concerned. Category has not been unlocked. Fnatic, though, are in the lane, going to start pushing forward, trying to get this minion wave pushed up. A broken myth finish, but Justman just playing with his food. Double Impale.
That was
really
a
is.
1 versus 3 trade. He came out unscathed and did respectable damage to 2 people. What do you do? Like, that just breaks my spirit.
I love how cocky Justman is as a player as well. Like, Justman's such a fun person to be around in person. He's got such a funny personality to him, and you can just kind of see it on the house he unfolds sometimes. I love it when a player's real-life personality is, like, visible in their gameplay.
Yeah, I like it as well. That's why when I play Weapon Wire, you know, it's me. Just goofy. So, another thing to note here is that Palma has not yet gotten any more defense. By any more, I mean any. This is a huge problem if Baron ever finds him out of position. Now, Baron is on 2 items, coming pretty close to the 3rd. As soon as he hits Tyrant's Monocle, that's close to a one-shot. There we go. There's the armor. He heard me.
Yeah, well, loud enough, a player will hear you, is what I've learned from my dad watching lots of sports growing up. On the TV, of course. But yeah, no, it's necessary. I actually wonder, like, when do you start building a Slumbering Husk? Especially for Apfel, you know, could have made the argument Slumbering Husk could have been useful, but I do think the Aegis is certainly viable as well. In fact, probably in this matchup alone, the Aegis makes so much more sense. But for Palmatoro, for Netelet, for Techno JJ, who are going to be diving in onto this Baron and have to be tanking up whatever harassment comes their way, there are arguments to be made that way, I guess. Palmatoro, though, we've hit this 15-minute stage, and it always scares me, AJ, when a player has not completed Broken Myth on their CP carry before 15 minutes, because right now, every 500 gold is going towards an infusion, and you're just not going to have, unless you win a massive team fight, the gold to ever finish that Broken Myth. Palmatoro may never finish it this game, and that's scary for Fnatic.
It's not even as if that's all he needs to. Like, he does need a Slumbering Husk. You bring up a good point. I think that in the fights, what you want to have, like, let's say that he had a Slumbering Husk and a Broken Myth. The ideal situation for this Taka is that you go in, you deal a brunt of damage up front, the turnaround happens onto you, not your teammates. You sort of act as the lightning rod, right? You draw the attention. Slumbering Husk protects you. You reset by using your Kaku, your stealth. And then afterwards, you're able to go back in with a new rotation because you've got Clockwork. That's the way you want these fights to go, if you're planning it out ahead of time, if you're thinking about your build. It's not close to that right now. Right now, he goes in, dies before Clockwork does it.
Tenno JJ taking so much damage, walks into the death from above and takes some more. This is looking like it's going to be turret going down very shortly for Fnatic, unless Palmatoro scares them off with this big, scary Tucker. No, it is Mouse just pushing forward and finding the first turret of this game at 16.5 minutes. That pushes their advantage to a whole whopping 600 gold here. At the almost 17-minute mark. There's an Echo purchase up for Netelet. Double gauntlets going to be a thing to watch for here. I actually think
definitely big.
Yeah, it is big. This. You have to think that Fnatic have the confidence now to fight and engage with double gauntlet.
You can hope that. I don't know if I'd necessarily say that it's it's that likely, though. I mean, they've been very cautious up until this point. It's... I don't know. I don't know where the problem is lying on Fnatic, but the choices are quite strange. Atlas I also don't necessarily like that much. I don't think that's what Apple is likely going to be able to just still crush you. Plus, I'm the Doom is not a like you get one person worth of threat out of this, right? Like you threaten Apple.
Here we go.
That's it.
Gauntlets go down. Gonna be the first one.
He wasted it.
He's not gonna. Palmator is almost dead. Death from above is gonna start eating him alive, and it is going to be him losing his life. Techno JJ trying to get onto Apfel here, but he cannot. Knocked against the wall, and it's just once more Justman styling, and Apfel with the triple kill. Impressive. Mouse have done it. Found the first team fight win of this game, and they're gonna get a Kraken.
Man. This game's been over for a while, I think, unless there's really a huge comeback.
Only because of mentality and hesitation, AJ. Not even because Mouse is so far ahead, but just because, whatever reason, Fnatic are so hesitant to be playing to their win conditions.
Yeah, it's brutal though. It's really brutal to watch because Fnatic is a team that in the past weeks have impressed me so much. Right? They've been very, very. Aggressive pace setting. They've played their later game comps very cautiously and patiently. Like they've been able to do it all, but this game it has not felt like that in the slightest. I'm trying to think if there's a window they can actually create here. It would have to be a good double gauntlet. They need to like gauntlet in, find a double stun on the carries, and then like immediately echo gauntlet back so the edge hits again the same targets and you just like stun them for 5 seconds. That's how you come back. For Fnatic. It's not
50 seconds though on the gauntlets. Well, the Echo even, and Palmator is almost dead. Neptile taking a lot of damage. Palmator trying to escape. Techno JJ will go in. Can he find the damage though? Onto Apfel is the question. It doesn't seem like he can. Oh, he trades the kills, but there's still a Kraken to deal with. And if this Tucker loses its life, then it's just GG at this point for Mouse. I'm the Doom pushing in. Death from above, forcing Neptile around the corner. This Kraken is so healthy. Can just push on into the base and it will likely find another turret, even though there is that banner on Palmatoro. It is not going to be taking the Kraken down quick enough, I don't believe. I'm intrigued to hear from these players what's going on in the Fnatic camp. What's the reasoning?
That was not quite as good as maybe it could have been actually from the side of Mouse, but I don't think it really does enough for Fnatic. That's definitely the kind of thing which gives me the slightest glimmer of hope, though, because if you're able to trade a kill in that situation, you're doing something right, and your opponents are maybe doing something wrong too. But Fnatic, they definitely are not out of the game. It's very hard to find a window though. Like they can't get any vision down, which is one of the bigger issues too. Like Taka wants to see someone coming a ways away so they can set up an ambush.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to do that right now. You can't leave your base, practically. So in terms of vision, flares are going to be critical for Net. I think, as good they is for. But I'd pick up more as soon as possible.
What Palmatoro is still holding on to this banner. He doesn't need it anymore. He's got Clockwork. That is providing the cooldown reduction he needs. Shortly selling it for some shielding so he survives against I'm the Doom. Or even a reflex block. Just because there's so much CC. Ah dear, I'm struggling to think about the justifications that Fnatic are currently, I guess, playing with.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think there's been some missteps both in their actual play and also their itemization, which is exacerbating that problem. Definitely. There needs to be a focus on defensive itemization for Palmatoro at this point, but it's unfortunate that he still, you mentioned it at 15 minutes, guess what, it's 21 now, still no broken net. That's a huge deal, obviously.
Yep.
Mouse...
And he's nowhere near it either. He's a whole 1,600 gold away from it.
But he has gotten Infusion. Hey.
That's it.
Alright, so I think Mouse just forces Kraken here. You know, that's the obvious play.
Gauntlet. It's caught Doom. Here's the second one. That's a pretty big gauntlet.
That is good.
Apfel's caught in it. Can they take him down is the question. No, they cannot. He finds one, goes down. It's Doom now racing away, but he is in so much trouble. Fnatic, finally, the aggression is there. They find 2 kills. Just man, last man standing. Can't get away from this. Goes over the wall. TechnoJJ going to be chasing down. The on-point connects, and that is Just Man dead. Just as the Kraken spawns.
Wow.
Holy moly, they've done it. Won a team fight here. They're pushing the lane as well. The Kraken not even the priority for them. Looks like they're going to push turrets instead.
There is always the room for human error, man. And if you use your reflex block and do not successfully block a gauntlet, when there's an Echo Gauntlet on the field, that feels real bad, man. That was rough.
I like this move, actually.
Got punished super hard. Speaking of the move, though, I do want to talk about it as well. I agree with you. I think pushing turrets here makes a lot more sense. We talked about vision and how critical it is and how you want to be setting up picks if you're on the side of Fnatic. Taking turrets accomplishes that goal far more effectively than taking Kraken. Not to mention, even if you do take Kraken, can you really push with it, Fnatic? Can you really actually do anything with it? I think probably
There it is. That's the reason I like it, is because it meant the Broken Myth comes online as well. You just gain so much gold for Palmatoro, which you would have got for a Kraken. Kraken doesn't give you gold until you push the turrets, and when you're pushing with the turrets, you're at risk of team fight and still being behind. So by pushing the turrets, Fnatic get the gold onto Palmatoro that they need to finish his Broken Myth. He sells that Stormguard banner as well, so now he can go in towards the shielding as well. Very clever from Fnatic. Most teams would just take the Kraken there, but they recognize they needed to get Palmatoro online. He has the gold for Infusion, and now Fnatic will be in a much stronger position as far as teamfights are concerned.
You know, it's not that often that the short-term loan is better, and that's what Kraken would have been there, right? It would have been the short-term already powerful.
Gauntlet goes down. Look at Doom. He's very low, but Palmatoro is as well. TechnoJJ trying to chase, but he is going down. They're focusing the sky. That's going to be Doom taken down. And now Apfel so far from the back, but here comes Palmatoro over the wall. Knocked into the wall. He is in so much trouble, but he manages to walk away. A double root. Apfel dives over. 1, 2. Double kill for him, and TechnoJJ has to escape. It all went wrong. For some reason, they changed their focus. We talked that they may, AJ, perhaps they feel threatened by this guy, but after winning by taking down Apfel so early on in the team fight, it did seem odd that they would focus on Doom.
You know, maybe I'm asking too much after how much of a struggle it was to get the Broken Myth, but you kind of need a reflex block too, Palmatoro. Getting stunned against the wall right at the end when he had Broken Myth stacks, that was his time to shine, but he couldn't do anything because he got stunned up, and, you know, fighting in a corridor like that is what Mouse are going to aim to make Fnatic do. They're going to kite into that position. It's very easy with jump jets. At this point, Kraken feels a lot better. You know, you got some capital to work with, taking a short-term loan, but it really is only a short-term loan. You know, you can pay it back soon.
Can he do anything about this Kraken?
I doubt
Doom is making his way down towards the lane. That's going to be the Iron Cannon revealing TechnoJJ is no longer in that tri-bush. I think they have to give it up here, but giving up the Kraken, they put themselves in such a hard position now. They're going to have to look for basically an assassination immediately off the back of this Kraken push, or else this is GG, and Mouse have upset Fnatic. There's the reflex block. It wasn't too much to ask for. Palmatoro agrees, but will make the difference.
All right, let's see how much Mouse can get done here, though. They've got to get through only one turret, but Fnatic has started to show a lot more capacity for snappy engages.
Gauntlet blocked. There's no Echo. Where's the Echo? It's not up! Oh no! They have to chase down and they have to find the kills, but look at what Mouse are doing. They're just playing a game of cat and mouse. Which do you want to take down, us or the Kraken? Because you're not taking down us. Now Fnatic are being marched back to their base, and the Kraken going to beat them to the punch. They're looking to try and get a kill here onto Justin, but he's really not the focus. Dive onto Apfel, but look at Palmatoro's health. He's getting chunked down, but can Apfel survive now? TechnoJJ, oh, he might go down. He does. Is it too late? I'm the Doom focused by Palmatoro. Lots of damage, and that is Justman going down as well. The Kraken is going to take this turret, but they surely have the damage to finish the job.
stop it.
Ooh, Netalet doesn't go back, but it's not necessary for him to go back, I don't believe. It is just these two damage dealers trying to take down the Kraken. Netalet basically buying time as well, keeping the Sky at bay. The Kraken wailing down at the Vein Crystal. They are doing the damage, but only a sneeze, I think, coming out of I Am the Doom, and the Vein Crystal will fall down. I don't even think they take the Kraken in time. They won't. This is going to be GG to Mouse. Doom walks in, secures it, and Fnatic have been taken down by Mousesports.
Wow, what a game. There was some real moments towards the end where, against all odds, and you gotta understand, it really was unlikely Fnatic were coming back there. They looked like they might for a second, which speaks volumes about how good the team is. But Mousesports, they were able to drive that final nail into the coffin. Incredible stuff from them.
Yeah, incredible execution with the Kraken. They played Fnatic like a fiddle, and that is going to be them progressing to day 2. So many things to talk about as far as standings are concerned, but we've got the perfect team to do it. So Munch, take us away.
Thank you very much, guys. What a series, and what a way to end it as well. Honestly, partway through that game, it felt like Mouse just had it in the bag, but Fnatic in those late game fights, taking it to them right down to the wire. They win the last team fight, but the Kraken's already pushing, and then the dramatic ending. I mean, I don't think we could have had a better ending to that series than how that game ended.
Yeah, this looked like two top teams going against each other. This is what we wanted to see out of this series, and it did not disappoint. In Mousesports, boot camp looks like it has paid off, at least for now. They still have a lot of work to do, but to be able to take down Fnatic and take them down, in a game that was so back and forth and so mentally draining, I think has to feel so good for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought Fnatic had this one because Arden Taka is so good into double squishy, but they just never pushed a power spike. When Taka got a Shatter Glass, Arden had the Gauntlet. They never got turrets. I mean, there was a full-blown team fight at this 1730 mark, which we see here. And by then, Sky had 2 items, and Baron already was pretty much full build, and that was the first full-on fight. And I felt like Fnatic didn't push their power spike hard enough, and they needed to with Taka Arden, because Taka starts to fall off late game for sure. And you can see the double gauntlets did make a difference though. They did a really good job of using those double gauntlets. Doomed actually missed a key 4 barrage. This fight right here, actually, if you watch, Doomed could have cleaned this up, but watch the second 4 barrage here. This 4 barrage here, he actually misses the direction of the 4 barrage and doesn't hit anybody. If he would have landed it, maybe the fight would have been different, who knows? But it was nice back and forth. And then finally the crazy fight at the end here, the 24-minute mark, where Sky blows up and then Apfel just turns it around. A beautiful Githian wall on Taka by Justman here. And then a double impale on to both Arden and Taka, and then boom, Apfel gets the kill. Amazing plays.
Yeah. Techno nervous to re-engage on that one with his team that doesn't want to give away the ace, but it's like that moment right there. There was so many moments like that where Techno's on the edge. He's like, I don't want to give them the ace. I don't want to go in. But if you do go in, there's like that sliver of a chance that you actually win the fight. And so many fights ended in a very similar way. And honestly, terrifying.